speaking of DC, so we got a couple things with DC. Well, we know I mentioned, and this is sort of related to Marvel too. Mentioned last week that um, they're developing a Superman movie, and it's rumored to it's going to be written by Ta-Nehisi Coates, and rumored to be about a black Superman, and that's a big to do that we talked about before. But
Hmm.
Ta-Nehisi Coates, as I mentioned also before, that he has been writing Black Panther. He's writing Captain America in the comics and Black Panther right now, and some of his Black Panther stuff got put into the Black Panther movie a few years
Hmm.
ago. Well, he's wrapping up his run on Black Panther right now as he transitions over to Superman. And this is actually kind of a big deal for me as far as the movies is concerned. All these movies that we see that we love, they're all coming from comic books, right? And comics are notorious. They've been notorious over the decades as being an industry that really kind of screws the creators of these things. Not could be because the idea is that, hey, we hire you to create things. Whatever you create is ours. Makes
Yeah.
sense, right? And yet, when someone is sort of trying to make a living in an industry that doesn't pay well and doesn't provide insurance or any kind of benefits or anything like that, they just give you a paycheck, and there's not a great paycheck in the first place. It's enough to keep you going. Um, People like Jack Kirby and Steve Ditko and all of the many comic book writers and artists over the years, many hundreds, thousands of comic book artists and writers over the years, have created some pretty big stories, some pretty big things. And so, in particular, um, think of all the Marvel movies. Each one they've averaged $1 billion box office, right? This big bank, and all of them are based on stories. They've more or less kind of mined the decades worth of stories to kind of come up with some kind of amalgamation of storylines that you know concentrates what these characters are about, and so you got to get like Age of Ultron and um, you know uh, what was it, the Black Panther story is sort of, it borrows a lot of stuff. Captain Marvel, all of that stuff, they borrow a lot of things. And so the question is, when they do that, when they, in particular for like Falcon and Winter Soldier and for Captain America the Winter Soldier, all of that takes from a very one or two people's ideas and make billions of dollars, and the creators themselves don't really get anything. It, you get what I'm saying? So, um, why does this matter at all? Well, Ta-Nehisi Coates on his way out of Marvel is kind of like calling into question the kind of practices that would make someone who creates the Winter Soldier speak out and say, hey, they're not even talking to me. No one's talking about, hey, we're making billions of dollars. Maybe we could break you off a little bit or something, maybe a little royalty check. Not because we have to, because your contract doesn't say that, but because we're making so much bank. Why can't we break you off, man? You literally are the reason why Bucky is the Winter Soldier. And so that he was really kind of talking about how it's kind of not okay, and that maybe the industry would be better to consider the fact that a contract saying something isn't the same as doing right by somebody. That's and my so that's sort of where he's coming from, and I know how I feel about it. But I'm curious, now that you've heard this, what do you think? What do you think about that situation and his words on it?
I mean, honestly, I mean, he's not wrong. I mean, when it comes to the comic book industry, we all know the creator of the greatest superhero comic of all time died poor. And that is inexcusable. Superman, the creator of Superman, died poor. And that's inexcusable. That should
Yeah.
not be allowed to happen. And I don't care what anybody says. It's going to be a stain that the comic book industry is going to have to
Well,
deal with until the end of time.
I think. Well,
And
one real quick. I think I'm gonna have to correct you a little bit. So it's two creators of Superman. In their
Mhm.
later years, they sort of tried to make some kind of deal about it. It wasn't as good. It didn't amount to as much money as they made off of it. But you're not wrong in the sense that there are many creators that did, like, they fought tooth and nail about sharing these profits. So I'm not. I'm just a little bit of a little bit of a correction.
and and I understand what you're saying, and it's kind of ridiculous because like let's compare it to another. Let's compare it to something else. Look at Japan when it comes to anime. You know, I'm pretty sure there's some people that don't like to compare it, but look at all the creators of these great anime. They are extremely rich now. Akira Toriyama, the creator of Dragon Ball, is a very, very, very wealthy man. The creator of Naruto, Masashi Kishimoto, very wealthy man. The creator of Bleach, Taita Kubo. I can just go down the list of all these anime slash mangas that hit big, and they became rich because they're still allowed to keep the name. It's like let's be honest. Besides Stan Lee, do we know any of these people that created a lot of these comic books? You know what I mean?
Do you know?
Besides,
Okay. So what's at hand here is that there are some, and it depend. The ones who do make it big, they don't often make it big by writing for Marvel or DC. And it's because, again, that work for hire contract. And like the question is like, I get it. They signed a contract. Now, why did they sign a contract that wasn't super favorable? There's all sorts of reasons why people, you know, you follow professional sports. Don't there are guys who sign non-ideal contracts because they got mouths to feed, right? They got bills to pay and mouths to feed. So they've signed non-ideal contracts, and they're just trying to get on. That's why that happens, and it has been taken advantage of in the comics industry. They say you work for hire, so whatever you create is ours, and they're right. The thing is, legally speaking, they are correct. That's not but in my mind, that's not really the question. The question is it right? Because being legal and being right aren't the same thing. And
mhm.
to me, this is about how you treat people. This is about how you treat the people that work for you. And if you're going to tell me that, okay, I create this widget that no, you don't know and I don't know. When I create it, I'm creating something that has value for the company, but they don't know how much value it is. So they're paying me for what they perceive will be the value at the time. And then in the case of the Winter Soldier, in less than a decade, it goes from being a great way to move some comic books to a great way to get butts in the seat and make billions of dollars. And to have, just because the contract says, hey, whatever you make is ours, we don't have to pay you shit. Is that right? Is it right to literally mine this person's output? They sign a contract and everything, but is it right morally, ethically, to then turn around, make buku profits and not look back and say, you know what? You were basically the reason why this happened. We should break you off. Not that we legally have
Yeah,
to, but because it's the right thing to do,
the
to do
right
right
thing to
by a
do.
person.
Yeah.
This is a part, and I know this. A lot of people maybe are listening to this. And you're like, why don't you talk about freaking, stuff for a superhero on TV? Because all this shit matters. The way you get the MCU is off the backs of relatively underpaid writers and artists. Let's just call it like it is, who are not going to be compensated in a fair manner. I don't care what you say about the contract. They're not going to be compensated in a fair manner that reflects what their actual contribution to the billion-dollar industry is. That's what I'm talking about. They're not, Kevin Feige, God bless him. I love the dude and what he's doing, but he is essentially remixing shit that somebody else made.
Yeah.
He is. They're making albums out of it, but they're remixing it. And the people that made the original things are basically not getting any money for it, and I don't think that's
Mm.
right. I just
Yeah.
don't. I don't think it's right. I know it's legal. I don't think it's right though. And let's be honest, they got hella money. Just you can't turn around and just be like, "Hey, here's $1 million." That's a fucking rounding error. I'm not even kidding. They could turn around and be like, "Hey, you did you contributed a lot. Here's $1 million," and just write that check. $1 million doesn't mean shit. $1 million is real money, but to a multi-billion-dollar corporation like Disney, that's a rounding error. It really is. It's not hard, and it kind of
Yeah.
sucks. It kind of sucks the way that works for creators.
Yeah. It's a little unfortunate because I do agree. It just, a lot of people's like you said, they're probably like, oh, we don't want to hear about that. But it's at the end of the day, it's true. Like we, I don't because there's somebody right now that I'm creating my own video game and I'm creating my own story. It would suck, and I'm pretty sure the hard work that I put in to create these characters and these models. A company just comes in and just takes it and just pays me. This game becomes this multi-billion-dollar thing, and I don't get any compensation for it.
Or you get some compensation, but it's not in line with how
Not, yeah,
how it's exploited. That's what I'm trying.
yeah,
That's what I mean. It's just it's something to think about. I think the industry could be better. Just definitely could be better because this is superheroes are big business, and the people who are creating the stories ought to share in the profits. It shouldn't just be just the big wigs.